Hey guys, so with the month of October underway, I wanted to use this video to go over how my portfolio fully performed for the month of September. Like when it comes to portfolio growth, last month is definitely putting me in the right direction, whereas my dividend payout, not so much, but we'll get into that later. Besides that, I'll go over the buys and sells that I made in September, along with what my outlook is for this month. But of course, before we get started, definitely leave a comment below and let me know how your portfolio performed. By the way, I don't really get a lot of comments from you guys when I ask pretty much every month. You don't have to, and I don't get the most views. But if you do, I'll definitely shout you out in the next monthly portfolio update, or maybe even in the next video if that's something you want. So just keep that in mind. So again, my portfolio did pretty well in September when it comes to profits. I made over 3.2%, which was about $614. That put me at a year-to-date of 13.66% growth, or a little over $2,300. And all-time, I'm at 61.14% growth, or a little over $7,400 in unrealized profits since I started investing 6 years ago. That's almost about a 10% annual growth, and honestly, that's really cool to see. And I really hope that the buys and sells that I make on this journey at least continue that streak, maybe even increase it. And last month, it was a lot. So as far as memory goes, last month might have been the biggest month I've ever had when it comes to sales. It was probably one of the more emotional ones. I know you're not supposed to put emotion in it, but it was, and I still made the sales anyway for the better of my portfolio. For starters, I sold my entire position of SPHD. This was probably the very first ETF I ever invested into. I sold it because I already have SCHD, and they're both very similar ETFs when it comes to the type of positions they're holding and their goals. SPHD did give me a bit of profit. I made a little over $90 in those 5 or 6 years, but its dividend consistency definitely wasn't there, whereas SCHD had been going up, or has been going up, for over 13 years. Speaking of inconsistency with dividends, I also sold my entire holding of QYLD. This was a position I actually really enjoyed holding because of the consistent monthly dividends, but it's really hard to make a profit with this type of ETF that uses its premium from covered call options to pay that dividend. So you're not really able to take the full advantage of that growth just due to how the option works. And also, since I'm somebody that's fairly young, I want to take more advantage of long-term growth. So I knew QYLD wasn't going to give me that, so that's why I let it go. And I also sold my full holdings of Best Buy and Hormel. These are two positions that I hadn't invested into in years. I was at a loss when it comes to Best Buy, and I had been holding on to it for years. And even though Hormel is one of the few dividend kings out in the market, paying its dividend consistently and increasing it for over 50 years, it still also wasn't giving me a profit either. And I knew there were other positions I had that were at least dividend aristocrats where I could make some long-term growth. So that's why I let those two go. And when it comes to buys, again, probably a record month for me as far as my recent memory. I started off by buying into some tech-heavy positions like iShares Semiconductor ETF, Broadcom, and Microsoft, just to take advantage into some high volatility tech positions. I also bought into some consumer defensive positions like Home Depot and Williams-Sonoma. Those positions, along with many others similar to it, I'm hoping to use this to kind of balance out the volatility from the tech sector positions. And then after some years, I finally got back into crypto. I put in a very small position into Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is definitely going to be a very small portion of my entire portfolio. At the best, maybe 5% of my entire portfolio, but I'm just gonna build it very little by little. I'm really considering making a separate video specifically about the buys and sells that I've made, because I think it can be really beneficial for low budget investors like myself to kind of get more of an insight on why I moved these positions around like I did. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely leave a comment below. Honestly, I might do it anyway, but it'll be really cool to hear from you guys. So I was paid 13 dividend checks in the month of September, giving me a total of $28.08. I'm not gonna go over all 13, but I'll give you guys a couple of highlighted positions. First is Realty Income, paying me $4.24. I definitely want to continue to hold on to the few high yielding monthly dividend stocks like this one. Not only do I want to take advantage of the consistent dividend income, I really feel like they're gonna benefit long term from future interest rate cuts, especially when you consider the type of tenants that Realty Income has. They're mostly essential. SOXX, or the iShares Semiconductor ETF, paid me $2.40. Again, this has a lot to do with the tech sector. It specifically monitors positions that have ties to the semiconductor industry, so Broadcom, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. And speaking of Broadcom, they paid me $1.61. A similar reason as SOXX, and a lot of dividend growth opportunity. So with those three and the other 10 dividend checks, that puts my annual running total at $294.10 and my running average at $32.68. Both higher than the same time last year, so that's always good to see. Another thing I really like doing, especially as a low budget investor, is seeing what my potential future holdings could be over the next 5, 10 to 20 years. And I'm always assuming I'm continuously investing $30 every single week, and I take in consideration what my annual share price growth currently is, which I believe it's around 9.8%. So if I keep all that in mind, this is what we get. Over the next 5 years, my projected balance could be almost $39,000. In 10 years, it could be a little over $76,000. And in 20 years, we're looking at almost $250,000. So to say that, I'm 33 years old now, that by the time I'm 53, I could have a portfolio of almost $250,000 just based on someone that's averaged about $30 every single week investing into that portfolio. That's really cool. Of course, I'm definitely striving for more, but hopefully this just motivates you guys that no matter how much you have something to make a difference. And of course, over time, hopefully I can invest a little bit more. Some other things I'm gonna have to do to continue this streak are continue to make some necessary changes to my portfolio. And that's definitely going to result in a temporary drop in my portfolio's dividend yield. It already has, especially when you see where my portfolio is as of the end of last month versus about 5 or 6 months ago. But regardless, I want to take advantage of positions with some history of long-term share price growth and dividend growth, and I'm investing a little bit more heavily into the tech sector so I can take advantage of maybe some higher growth than maybe other positions. But as I get a little bit older, I'm definitely going to transition back into some of those monthly dividend or high yielding positions to take advantage of the actual income from my portfolio. And then maybe one day, if I'm still making dividend update videos by the time I'm 50 something years old, I can say in September I made a couple $1,000s rather than 28 bucks. But in present day, my portfolio still did pretty well when it comes to dividends. I know I broke it down a little bit, but if you're interested, I made this video where I break it down even more, including all the positions that paid me last month. So make sure you check that out, and I appreciate you guys watching this video. Until next time, as always, take care.